Hey everybody, welcome to the Sally Allen podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. As you know, on this podcast, we share stories of resilience. And today I have a very powerful story for you and a very amazing guest. His name is Bryan Hopkins. He is not related to Anthony Hopkins. We've confirmed that.
This is true.
Yeah. Bryan is lead singer of the band Elvis Monroe. And he has a Heroes Journey podcast. I can't see without my glasses. I'm so glad you're.
I was like, she can't read her own writing.
No,
What's going on?
I couldn't see it. But Bryan, tell us about the Heroes Journey podcast.
Heroes Journey podcast is, I came up with this. I say this all the time. I just said it on radio in an interview a little while ago, that we wake up the hero of our own story every day. We are the lead character in our own little movie, whatever that is. And so it's just, I try and bring on guests. I'm an artist, so I get a lot of people who are musicians or just have inspiring stories that I think will connect. Because the whole thing about having a podcast and doing this is I want to have somebody see a little bit of themselves in somebody else that I have on my show. And so then that way they can relate and hopefully get inspired.
I'm inspired by it because that's basically the premise for my podcast, right? It's the resilience podcast. People sharing their stories. And that's my why, hoping that someone else would hear your story and be inspired by it. And to know also that they're not alone.
Correct.
Right? There are other people going through the same thing because sometimes life can be so lonely.
Exactly. And from, it's just an extension of myself because being an artist, I write music. You can't touch it. I can't hand you one of my songs, but you can, hit play and listen to it, and it can take you on a little journey. It can connect in a way that I hope the podcast can, sitting down with these people and sharing their stories and hopefully they connect.
Yeah. And I knew nothing about you until we met, and Austin, our producer, wanted to keep it that way. So I wanted to talk. You're a hero of a very powerful story. But before we get into that, how long have you been a musician, and what inspired you to start writing and playing music?
It's crazy. Music kind of chose me. I'm an ex-athlete turned actor. So I was an actor for a long time, and music just kept presenting itself to me in this crazy way. I found myself on stage hosting things. I would pay to go to a concert, and then found myself on the stage one time at a big concert, and I knew that this was something I wanted to do. But growing up, my dad was a singer, my brother's a singer, uncle, cousin, it was around me, but it wasn't my first love. And it was something I had to work really hard at. To be good at it, I had to work really hard at it. And to be great, that's something I'm chasing. So that is, I was just asked in an interview, do you ever find yourself just content with where you are now and the accolades and the things that you've got to do? And I'm like, no, I'm not done. This is something that I haven't hit goals, and even when I'm reaching those goals, I've set further goals in front of me. So I'm not done. Like, I'm getting up. If I'm lucky enough to get up breathing tomorrow, that's something else I'm going after. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. As you're speaking, this thought is running through my head. When you've climbed that mountain, just climb a bigger mountain.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've had a mountain climber on my show, and she said the same thing. That's one accomplishment, and now she's setting goals for other ones that she has to train for, and she had to, sleep in train at home, sleeping in a tent with a mask on and all these things because she wanted to go higher. She wanted to go after more, and that wasn't even something that she was seeking out before COVID. COVID was like, can't be around anyone. What can I go do? And now it's a passion. So, life is a bit of a journey like that. I didn't know I'd be in this room doing this kind of stuff, having a podcast even. So,
yeah. Yeah. So, and then you've confirmed that you won't be singing on this podcast.
I won't be singing. I did not bring a guitar. I'm not very good at guitar. Austin, your producer, he can attest to that. He's always like, I'll play guitar for you. And he always plays the same 3 songs. So it's okay. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So, talking about heroes of your own story, I know 5 years ago, October 1, you experienced something very traumatic, but you came out of it a hero. Tell us about that.
Well, that's kind of wild that you're saying hero, and that's not, my show is not based on that. My show, like I told you what my show is based on. I did something that I hope anyone else would do as well, but on October 1, there was a shooting here in Las Vegas. 58 people died that night, more since that have fallen, unfortunately, from that night. One of them was a friend of mine who had passed from the bullet poisoning her blood over the years, and she had passed away. And but anyway, it's that night is crazy. I was there as just to watch the show. My buddy, I brought a song. Brett Young was one of the performers on Saturday night. I brought a song that I co-wrote with Brett and Ben, my guitar player, and I brought it as a demo, showed it to him on Saturday. This girl walks up to me and said, "Hey, this past summer, I got a picture with you at the show. Can I get another one?" And I went, "Sure." And so I took a picture with her, and that was on Saturday. And Sunday I come back and she's standing in the same area that I was at, and I introduced myself, and she said, "This is my friend Nicole," and I'm Nicole, and I'm like, "Oh, there's an echo." And so later on that night, we were backstage, and I made my way out front. I had told the owner of the Route 91, Brian O'Connell, I was like, "Hey, this is a great event. I'm going to go out front." And I told Brett Young's wife, Brittany, "I'm going to fanboy out. I'm going to watch the show from the front." And so I went out front, made my way out front, and we took pictures with fans, and I was high-fiving people going down the line, and this guy walks up to me, calls me Elvis, because I know that you don't know who I am really if you're calling me Elvis. My name is Bryan. The band is Elvis Monroe.
Right.
So he said, "Can I get a picture with you? I saw you play in Alaska with Jake Owen." And I remember this, and I remember his face and his black cowboy hat. And Ben asked if he could wear his hat in the picture. So we take a picture with he and his friend. And I walk up behind, and there are Nicole and Nicole. And we were front left side, and I'm standing behind them, and I just said hi. And when the hell rained down, and you're just hearing this thing going on, and I didn't quite know what was going on at that point, and then you see just people running, and they're running at us. Ben gets hit on the arm, and what I didn't know was a young man behind me that I just took a picture with who was shot and killed instantly. I didn't know this, but 2 people go down in front of me. A person goes down over the top of someone right behind me, and Ben says, "Run." And he pulls my shoulder, and I go to run with him, and I look back, and those 2 girls are standing there, and they're just looking at me. And I reach back, and I grab her hand, and I said, "Stay with me. I'll get you out." And I just grabbed her hand, and she had her friend's hand, and I look back, and Ben is gone. What I didn't know is Ben had been trampled. There were just people running over the top of people. It's like chaotic, like out of a movie. And I can talk about it like this, like I'm talking about it like it happened to somebody else. That's it's the weirdest thing, because it seems like an out-of-body experience. So I went, and I said, "Follow me," and everyone is running at me. And when I grabbed her hand, it was like I'm an ex-athlete, as I told you, and it's like the game slowed down. And I weaved them through the people without us getting ran over, trampled, people breaking through our hands, nothing. Cleared it, and I come up on a doorway that was here's the 22,000 people on this side, and I'm taking them backstage for where I just came from. And I clear the corner to make sure that there's no gunmen on the ground. And we start running, and you hear this, and it's chaotic, and people screaming, and you're hearing it hit the pavement. You're hearing it hit the metal of the staging that's behind us. And I'm running along the fence line, and I'm coming up around the corner, and in my head I'm thinking, I'm going to get them out the artist entrance. That's where I came in. And now it bows back, and you hear them screaming. And you hear people screaming. And like, because now there's a fence, and it's about as tall as these walls. And I knew I could get over, but I didn't know if I could get them over. And somebody yells, "Get in here." And there's a big truck, and this guy opens up a door, and I lift the girls in, and I just start lifting people into this truck. And there were people who followed me. I didn't know this. I had no idea, but I just stood there putting people in the truck. And then even there was a couple who told me, like a year ago, they followed me but hid behind the tires. They didn't want to be in the truck. They wanted to see what was coming. And so I get inside, and what felt like forever was 5 minutes. And it was 5 minutes because we were in a refrigerator truck, and everybody is hunkered down, and I'm telling them to be quiet. There's a girl screaming bloody murder. There's a guy pounding on the walls, screaming out, "ISIS this, whatever," and it's his girlfriend. And I literally grabbed him and said, "Is that your girlfriend?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "You think it's fair that Nicole Yorba, one of the Nicoles, was asking her name, where's she from, where do you live," trying to get her to calm down. And the other Nicole is just looking at me, waiting for me to tell them what we're going to do next. And I go to the door, and I open up the door, and I hear the gunfire. And I shut it, and I come back, and I'm standing, and I'm telling everybody to be quiet and stay down. And I'm standing up, and someone had to pull me down, and I'm thinking, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to send this to my family. And I go to make a video, and the guy throws rock fingers in front of my video, and I just stuffed my phone in my pocket, grabbed him, sat him down, then stood there thinking, this isn't where I'm going to die. I don't want to spray it with gunfire. I don't want him to open the door and shoot us. So I moved towards the door, and as soon as there's a break in the gunfire, I opened the door, and now someone had taken the ramp that, when you're a U-Haul truck, you roll up in the back. They took that and put it up on the fence. And so I think it was the workers that were there, did that, and they took off. And so one guy jumps, hits it, he's gone. I jump out, and I start lifting people out of the truck. And I yell out, somebody has to stand on the other side and help the ladies. And one guy does. And I remember in my head, he's like this tall Asian guy, and he was there for a minute, and he's catching them as I am getting him out of the truck. And I turn, and both the Nicoles who I'd lifted out first are putting people over the wall. They're sitting there pushing people, and there was a bigger girl they were pushing up over the wall. And I turned and helped them, and that's what we start putting them over the wall. And then when I thought they were the last ones, I tell them, "Okay, go. You need to go." And they look at me and said, "We're not leaving you." And I went, they don't know me from Adam.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I said, "No, you go, and I'm going to follow." But I remember too the girl screaming out. There was a girl that was screaming, saying, I can't jump the wall. It's had back surgery." And her boyfriend's like, "It's true, it's true." And I said, "Then I'll go over." And then I remember thinking, I didn't help them. How did they get out, right? And what had happened was Nicole Ruffino had went up a couple of times, slid back in her boots. So I grabbed her by the waist, and I started to turn to the right, and I hear a voice, and he yells, and my phone caught this because it was still recording, and it's just black, and it's a police officer, and he's running towards me, and he yells, "Run towards Hooters." And he's like, this way, run towards Hooters. And he runs towards gunfire. And no one remembers him. I'm like, "Do you remember this happening?" They're like, "No." And I caught it on my phone. And you hear the chaos. And so I grab them, and I start running along the truck, along the fence line. And this is where I have nightmares because I ran past people on the ground who are somebody's family. You know what I'm saying? These are people. And I have nightmares because I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3". I could have grabbed somebody. But my focus was I made a promise. The moment I grab their hands, I'm getting you out. Yeah. And now there's more people. Come to find out, there's the couple, and now this older lady, and I'm leading him out by foot. And we come up around the corner, and there's a guy laying on his back. He'd been shot in the sternum. He has no shirt on. He's a bigger guy. And all I remember is seeing his buddy on top of him, trying to breathe life into him, crying. And I said, run into the dark. Well, Nicole Rufino had stopped, and she calls her dad. I'm like, we have to keep moving. And our friend grabs the phone, Nicole Yorba, grabs the phone and says, there's been an incident, meet us at Hooters. And we're running, and I'm running in boots. And like I said, it was like an outer body experience. I can see all this. And we come around the corner, and I see them, and then I said, run into the dark. And the couple that goes this way, the older lady runs to my right, and I tell him to run towards the dark, towards the airport. And in the middle, they don't remember this either. There was a car in the middle of the road, and the passenger had been shot in the passenger seat. He was gone. And there were 7 or 8 people hunkered down behind the car looking up at the building. And I'm running with them into the dark. And I get to a fence line that's an iron fence, and I know I can't. I'm like, we're stuck. And these 2 guys come running out, and they pull it back enough for me to get through, and I lift it back. And then now the 2 girls get through, and people who are following me, and we get to Hooters. And now there's more chaos that goes on at Hooters. I had to hide them in a restaurant. Got them out, and other people, because of me being in the band, it was like a recognizable face. They were running to me for help. So I had gathered phones, and started calling, find people with phone, if you know the phone numbers. We had hid in a restaurant in a kitchen area at one point, and then I took about 13 people and walked them along the airport line for 2 miles to get them out of the Vegas area, where somebody picked us up in a truck and took us to a house. And that's when I went live on Facebook and told, what had happened, because people were blowing up my phone. My bandmate had called me running when I was hiding, and I'm like, get out. I will get out of here. Just run. And, I was being quiet, and I remember that. And so now we get through this dilemma. We get through all this chaos and whatever. And I get home, and, for days, I'm up for days talking about it on news crews. They were showing up in my house, CNN, all these people. And I'm telling my story, and I don't know Nicole. You know what I'm saying? And so one of the news crews puts us back together, kind of thing. A couple days later, I've been up for days, and it's our first time seeing each other.
Bryan, before we segue into that, there's so many questions going through my head, and I didn't want to interrupt you before.
Yeah, please.
I'm just getting goosebumps as you're talking. But what was your mindset going through that? Were you thinking like it was just survival mode, or I have to do this? Were you scared? What was your mindset?
I wasn't. My dad asked me when I got home at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
When he could see on the TV, the video that's running on CNN, my voice telling what happened, and I'm sitting in front of him, and he asked me, were you scared?
Yeah.
And I said, no. And I wasn't scared until that moment. I started shaking, and I started crying, because I realized I was moving methodically.
Yeah.
And I was moving and doing it for people I didn't know. And I didn't have one thought of myself in that moment until that moment. And I realized I'm not a superhero. I was wearing a Captain America shirt with my own clothing line I own, and I was wearing it. And I'm like, who did I think I was? And that's a part that scared me, because I was standing in the truck. I was telling people where to go, what to do. and they were listening to me, and they believed me. And here are these two girls that believed everything I said. They didn't want to leave me, because if they left me, there was no guarantee in their mind. This is them later telling me this. And there was no guarantee with me. And so that was me dealing with it. And it didn't hit me until later, but talking about it helped me. Nicole cannot sit here and have a conversation with you about it. Neither one of them can.
Yeah.
Because in their eyes, it was a different
experience.
They experienced it with me, but their experience was different. I was in control. They were not in control, but I was in control of nothing. I was just in control of what we were going to do next. It's like I was an ex-athlete. I was a quarterback. I was a pitcher. The game was always going to be, win or lose, it was going to be on me. And that's the way I wanted it. So in this case, that was the same kind of thing. And I didn't know that until after the fact. It's just who I am.
That's right.
And I'm the lead singer in a band. I'm the leader. I love being a part of a team. I love being a part of something. I don't want it to be the Bryan show. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so how I dealt with this, people went to therapy and all these things after the fact. Nicole and I talked. I sent her to somebody that I knew was a therapist, and who tricked me into going to a yoga thing to get me to talk about it and whatever with other people. And so what we found is talking about it actually helped, both of us. And like, I could ask questions like, what happened here? I don't remember this. And they would tell me what I did, and other people. So, people started coming out of the woodwork and telling me what I had done for them on social media, on the news, in other interviews. They would surprise me with somebody who would surprise me and say, you did this for me. And the Nicoles did this. I called them my echoes, because I didn't know their last names. I didn't know. I just said, I just told it like it was. This is what happened. This is how I saw it. And so over time, that happened in October. I did a benefit concert on the 5th of October here. Days later, I wrote a song called The Fight. Nicole Ruffino came to the show with her parents. I brought her up on stage, and I held her hand when I sang the song. It was on Inside Edition the next day. And then on the 6th, I'm in California, same thing. Like, it was just like this snowball thing. Well, November comes around. Nicole gets really sick. She gets viral meningitis. And her parents call me and said, she's asking for you. We don't know what's going on, but she asked for you to be here to hold her hand. And I had done a show in November with like Penn and Teller, Britney Spears, all these people. Like, I was a closing act, and Jewel opened up for us, right? Yeah. I brought both the Nicoles on stage. And my reaction was to grab their hands and hold their hands, no matter what. That was just like a safety thing, right, for all of us. And I was saying I love you to them, and they were total strangers to me. You know what I'm saying? But we had this thing that we went through.
It's a survivor bond.
Exactly. It was this thing. So over time, she gets sick, and she's asking, I'm like, she wants me there? And they're like, yeah. She doesn't remember me being there. She was that sick. Viral meningitis messes with your brain. She had to learn how to walk again. She's very athletic. She's an athletic person, ex-basketball player and stuff. And so I was shocked that she asked for me. Well, now flash forward, I'm going out on tour with Three Doors Down. We have this bond. We have this thing. And I'm discovering that she's absolutely amazing. And I told you I brought a song to Route 91, and now I just wrote one. Then I wrote a song called You Have My Word, which was a song to her saying, from the moment I grabbed your hand, it's the promise that I made on the worst day, that you had, as long as I was holding your hand, you had my word. And then I wrote another song called Let It All Begin. And it was this what if kind of thing. It was like literally, what if? What if we took a shot at this thing between us and took it further? And that scared her. So I just let it be.
Yeah.
Right. And just literally let it be. So I'm going out on tour, and I tell my bus driver that I forgot something at the grocery store, and I didn't. I just wanted to race to her house and let her know that we survived October 1 together. She survived, almost dying of viral meningitis, and I was there for her. That we are there for each other. Every morning she calls me on her way to work. I'll wake up anywhere USA, and I would answer her call and talk to her about anything, just whatever. And I said, we've gone through all this stuff. So whoever you choose in your life, you're standing there getting married, he has me to answer to now too.
Right.
So, he has your parents, now he has me, because we've been through this. Then I left on tour. And then 2 weeks before the tour ends, she surprises me at a show, and I'm like, whoa, what are you doing here? Like, this is crazy. And she plants one on me. She kisses me right in front of everyone. And I'm like, what? And it was the happiest moment for me ever. No joke.
Yeah.
And so I flew her out. The last 2 days of the tour were in Joliet, Illinois. And I wrote this song right after she left. It surprised me. I wrote a song called Falling For You Bad. And either she's going to be running for the hills or she feels the same way. The bus driver drove through the night. We were in Ohio, and it's dumping snow. He shows me that there are no lines in the road, and she's going to have to land in Chicago and be there for hours waiting for us to pick her up. But, we'll grab her on the way to the venue, to the theater. And he got there like 15 minutes before she landed. He wakes me up, and I go to the front of the bus, and then he goes right where the shuttle is, the last drop. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. Like, and everyone on the bus is like watching from the front, and nobody's videoing. And she gets off there, and she tells me she loves me. And we have been together for 5 years. That was February 10th. So 5 years now we've been together. And it's the greatest. She's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me on the worst day.
Yeah.
But that's what we don't celebrate October 1, we celebrate February 10th. But this year on October 1, it was 5 years, and it was a rough day for me. And I didn't know why, because my story's positive, but I can't seem to celebrate something that so many people's lives were changed. I met the kid. I played, out of all of the kids, I played a benefit concert on October 15th in Alaska for 2 fallen Alaskans. And this guy walks up to me, and his name is Bryan, and we're friends to this day. And he thanked me for being there. I raised money for funerals for 2 fallen Alaskans, Doreen Anderson and Adrian Murfitt. And I had met the mother and the sister on both sides of the family the night before. And he thanks me and goes out, that was my best friend. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I hugged him. I'm FaceTiming Nicole, because that's what we did. We just talked. And I'm talking to her, and she was wanting to know how the show went. And I look at him and said, I'm sorry to meet you like this. And he goes, no, we met moments before this happened. And then it was like the walls were moving, shooting this way as he's standing in front of me. And I realized I took a picture with Adrian and you moments before this happened. And out of all the people, the 22,000 people that are at the show, I meet you guys, and he passes, and now I'm playing his funeral like I met him. And it was the craziest thing. And, it was, so it's just kind of just nuts. But on October 1 this year, the way I dealt with it is the way I deal with anything. I say it and I write about it. And it's like, sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's just for me. And I wrote a song called Better Me. And it was how I was feeling before I met Nicole and before that night. And then how I took a shot on her and I, and this is like the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Yeah. I think I don't believe in coincidences. As you are talking and you're sharing this story, I can see how the people who came into your life at that event, how it's just interwoven. It's like this big, beautiful blanket, and they're just, the fabric is just woven together. Do you see that throughout? Do you believe in coincidences? What do you think that was about?
No, it was
seeing the Nicoles and then seeing them the next day and all these people.
Yeah, like exactly. No, it was, I was supposed to.
You're supposed.
I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to be the one that was there, and that's, you know, it couldn't have played out any other way. But I say this all the time, and I mean it, that I would trade that day and how happy I've been for the last 5 years to make that go away, so that way everyone can go back to having their lives, having their loved ones, having all that. And I believe that I still would have met her, but it doesn't play out like that, and I don't have the powers to do that.
Yeah.
But maybe on some other plane, some other universe, whatever, that's the way it plays out. But because I know that, like, I had Bet on Me to Be Alone is the name of the song that I wrote, and I wrote the song, and I literally told my mom before going to the concert. I had been alone for 2 years. I had been out of relationships, and it seems like they would run their course every 2 years. But I'm an artist, and I'm somebody who is very driven and very, you know, it's like most people, they love that about me, but then they want me to stay and be in one place and put down roots and this. And I'm like, that's not what I'm about, you know, and so I just said, I'm going to be that guy who just goes through these 2-year relationships. No one's really going to feel that or understand it. And then that happens exactly. And Nicole comes in, and it was like, she's an ex-athlete. She's smart. She's beautiful. She's, you know, it's just insane. Like, you know, our therapy is going to the gym every day. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, Bryan, I just, what's running through my head is that you're an incredible human being.
Well, thank you.
When we're under pressure, we get to see our true selves.
Right.
And you didn't have time to think about the way you react and the way everything happened. If somebody would have told you, you would have reacted like that, and you would have done that, and you would have led those people to safety, would you have believed it? Did you see that
I
in
would,
yourself?
in
you
that
know?
I have young parents. They had me at 16 years old, and they've been together since they're 13. We're Native American Indian. My dad drove home that that's your brother, these are your 2 sisters, and you're responsible for them. And because he couldn't be there every day, nor could my mom. So I was responsible for them. And then anybody who comes into my space, I feel responsible for, meaning we're at Sticky Paw Studios. This is a family here.
Yeah.
Right? And I would protect them. I would put that first. So I'm not saying, oh yeah, I would do that again, but I think it's driven in me, and that came from my dad. That came from having that responsibility, and from my mom. My mom is a very strong woman, and she was the one who would stop at a door and make me hold the door for her.
Right.
But she didn't do that for her. She did that for the person in my life, and to hold the car door for her, to do this. And my mom we are, you know, below middle class family. It was paycheck to paycheck. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mom is like this uppity, but she was somebody who's like, you know, treat females in your life like those are sisters and daughters to somebody. Yeah. You have 2 sisters. You treat them like you want your sisters to be treated. And I was like, wow, you know, and she'd drive that stuff home. And that was something.
An innate sense of responsibility for other people. Plus, it seems like you're a born natural leader also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was born into that.
Born
you know,
into that.
exactly, being that, and it's something that, like, when it comes to, like, you know, with Nicole, you know, that she was a beautiful girl, of course. But the moment this night happened, that idea of a relationship wasn't even a question. It was just somebody I'm going to have this bond with. I'm there for her. I will be in this person's life. That was out the window. But as time went on, I was discovering how amazing she was. Yeah. Outside of, just the, like the what we see, it's the way I was feeling and the way she made me feel. And like, oh my gosh, there is somebody out there that is very much, fits me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys are together. Keeping my fingers crossed as you're sharing this story.
No, we are. I
was keeping my fingers crossed as she came around.
She is amazing. She's amazing. John Orlando. He's like, dude, you found the perfect girl for you, and I'm like, I know, in the most unreal way. Yeah.
So what's next for you and Nicole?
Well, it's wild. Ellen asked me on the 1-year anniversary if I would get engaged on her show. And I would have. If she wasn't full-blown Italian with a very Italian mother who tolerates me. She's a sweetheart. I love her. We get along great. But, she wants to see her daughter with a doctor. Nicole is in medical sales. Mm-hmm. And she's worked around that. Her mom's a retired nurse as of last week. They would like to see her with somebody like that. Even though, I when I'm around them, they don't want to say goodbye.
Right.
We will be out until 1:00 or, but it's just.
It's tradition, you see.
It's tradition.
Yeah,
They're stuck in their ways. Yeah, it's like, and we've been around that. I grew up around people who, I've had connections with at a younger age, and I had a friend. She was Jewish, and the moment I walked in her house, she was from Israel, and the moment I walked in her house, her dad was screaming, and I'm like, I'm just her friend. Like, I don't, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? But there's tradition.
There's tradition.
And so I get it, and her mom and I said this yesterday. We have come to a place where there's a wall that's built, right? But we open up the door to enjoy. We figure out, and we understand. I understand where you're coming from. You understand where I'm coming from. Yeah. Neither one of us is going to change, and really it comes down to your daughter.
Yeah.
And she's safe. She's happy. Yeah. Happy as she's ever been, and I know her father sees it, and he's smiling, and that, but mom is, mom. She's the hardcore, not going to budge kind of thing. But I see moments. She breaks down. There are moments where she slipped and said, love you to me. And I'm like, whoa. You know what I'm saying?
Can I record that?
Exactly. I'm going to run with that. I'll keep that. Like, I don't care what that was. But yeah, so when it comes to her and I, we choose each other every day. That's all I need. I don't need a ring on my finger. Yeah. I don't need someone, I don't need, whatever. I get up every day and I choose her. And I actually love the fact that that's what it is. Yeah. That I get up and I choose her and she chooses me. It's not a law thing. It's not, we are stuck together and now it's all this whatever. It's
we have to stay and try to make it work out because now that we're married.
Exactly. Totally it has nothing to do with that. It's we choose each other. And so and when hell was coming down and it was the darkest, they didn't, she looked at me and they weren't leaving me then. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't know me. So, it's when it comes to that,
it's almost like the universe and fate just orchestrated those moments for you to be together and come together.
My mom saw it. I said I played a show on October 5th. My mom walks in a room and all these people are going, your son did this, your son did that, whatever. And so she's getting hit with all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I do the show and she sees me holding Nicole's hand. And she didn't tell me till later. She's like, I got to tell you, you're not supposed to let that hand go. And I went, wait, what? And I'm like, stop it, Mom. She's like, no, that's all I'm going to say. Right. She's like, there is something there. And my mom from all the anxiety and all that stuff that night, and her dealing with all that, that night I came home from the show, I heard my mom hit the floor, and I thought she had a heart attack, and I had to call 911 and grab my neighbors, and I sat next to her in the hospital bed that whole night, and she was. It was crazy because it was an anxiety attack that felt like a heart attack, and I sent her home, and then got in a car and had to drive to California to do another benefit concert on the 6th in California for Route 91. And the phone rings, and it's the guy, the guy at Route 91 that was headlining was Jason Aldean. His best friend is DJ Silver. He was on right before Jason Aldean. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, Ben, I'm looking for Bryan's number. And he goes, you don't have to look. Bryan's in the passenger seat. And I wake up and I'm like, what's up? And his name is John. And he's like, Bryan, I got to put you on the phone with somebody, but I want to say thank you for what you did. And I'm like, yeah, like, sure. And then he puts his mother-in-law on, and she gets on and she's crying. And she said, I followed you. You put me into the truck, and then you led me out by foot. And I get to be with my family, and I just listened to what you said. And she followed me. And I'm crying, mm-hmm. And we get to the show, and now this is a news truck, and I get there and I'm like, oh no, and I'm not ready for this, but they're interviewing 3 girls. So I thought, okay, that's them. Then 2 of the girls come running over at me, and they're like, you did this for me, and the Nicoles, your echoes, the Nicoles helped put us over the wall, me and my friend, and we just followed you. We did what you said to do, and we're here. And I'm like, whoa. So, and if I didn't grab Nicole's hand, I don't think that saved my life. It gave me purpose.
Yeah.
So otherwise, because of my nature, because of who I am, who knows what could happen then.
Yeah.
But that saved my life, actually.
Well, Bryan, I didn't want to stop the time. I just let the clock roll, because this is incredible. It's so powerful what you're sharing, and just how many lives you've touched, not even realize it, because that wasn't your intentions. You were just set on saving those people. So thank you.
No,
I mean, I
thanks
can't
for
even
having
say
me.
thanks enough, right? What's a takeaway for our audience today?
I don't know. Like, for me, it comes to mind. It's just listen. If you're being spoken to, just listen to the universe, God, whoever it is that, whatever it is that, listen, pay attention. I could have walked away from something incredible with this relationship with Nicole, but I followed my heart, and here I am. So for me, I'm really lucky. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's what's running through my head, is that you said the universe, God,
mm-hmm.
whoever has a purpose for us. And
mm-hmm.
sometimes he puts it right in front of us, or he puts it in our hands,
mm-hmm.
and have us hold that hand. And you follow that.
Mm-hmm.
And today you have the love of your life.
Yep.
So thank you all for listening, and see you next time. I said thank you again.
That's okay.